Welcome aboard, folks, to Brisbane Transport Museum's second trip of the day. So the bus you're on today is a Volvo B59 built in Malmö in Sweden, and these were the first batch of buses that were bought from Europe. Previously, Brisbane City Council always bought from the UK, AECs, Albions and Leylands. But by 1976, or 1970 I should say, Leyland was becoming a bit of a pain to deal with, getting parts, and later on Leyland actually sort of got their game together, and they came out with a different bus, the Leyland Tiger, and that was a very successful bus, both here and in the UK. But the council trialled one, and they would have bought a lot if they'd been introduced earlier. So getting back to the Volvos, when the council wanted 100 of these, but if you remember the period, 1976, inflation was very high, and in the end we only got 98. We couldn't afford the other two, but we got a spare chassis, and the spare chassis was used for parts, keep anything going. But these were very reliable buses. They had one downside: they only did 5 k's to the gallon. Yeah. So you needed a fuel tanker to tow behind every one of them while they were in service. You were lucky to get a 3/4 shift out of them, but they were very reliable. Mechanics loved them because there was hardly anything to do, and what there was to do was a piece of cake. So these ran in service between 18 years and 26 years. The last one went out of service in 2004. They were really nice buses, a little bit heavy on the suspension, they were a bit hard, but what they lacked in that department they made up for in reliability. Now people keep asking, why didn't we buy a Mercedes-Benz? The less said the better. Mercedes-Benz were absolute rubbish in Brisbane. We had 40 of them. When you consider that the average council bus lasts between 18 and 26 years, the Mercs lasted 8 years. They were chucked. I was on dispatch at Carina Depot on the first morning that the Mercs were in service, and we had 20 Mercs at Carina, and drivers were having fist fights to go out and get a Merc. By 9 o'clock, when they started coming back in after the morning peak, they all said, "You can stick your Merc where the sun don't shine." After that, drivers just hated them. They rode very badly, they were very heavy, they had it seemed as though they had flat wheels. So we bought Mercs, we bought Volvos in 1976, and then in 1985 we bought Volvos again, but they were underfloor engine. This is a rear engine. The underfloors were very good. They rode a little bit hard. I remember the Swedish engineer saying they will settle down. They did 20 years later. So but the Volvos cast their mark here, and we've bought Volvos ever since. Today we've got nearly 800 Volvos, mainly the B7. We've also got the B12, which is the 3-axle ones you'll see running around on Main Road. They're a very reliable bus. And we've got B8s, which are a hybrid. We've also got 2 B9s, which are a special hybrid. They're electric buses, and they operate in the city centre. Right, I'll just steer around. council in 1985, we had 610 buses. When I left the council in 2015, we had 1,264 buses. And today the fleet's up around the 12 to 1,300 all the time. We now cover an area of the entire city of Brisbane. We didn't go to places like Albany Creek until 2004. We now go out there. We've got busy express services out to there and to the southern suburbs, Sunnybank, Runcorn, Alcester. We now go right down to the border into Logan City. Also bought MANs from Germany, and they're the sort of poor relation of Mercedes, according to some operators, but we love our MANs, magic buses. We've had 7 batches of MANs since 1985, and the fleet today has got 312 gas ones. Some have been withdrawn, so that was the entire batch. We've also got Scanias, and we've got 4 Chinese buses. Now everyone says, the Chinese buses, they'll fall apart. Well, they are. They're 5 years old and they're as good as the day they arrived. We have an interesting story because we actually own 5 of the Chinese buses. We got 4 and they run around for a while. They came with a mechanic. And every night a mechanic would come in, and at that time none of the private operators in Brisbane had bought any Chinese buses. Then they started to buy the buses, and he went round and maintained those as well. They needed work. And one night he had a job to do at Hornibrook, and he told the Brisbane mechanic that he put bus 6004 on charge, and would he mind taking it off charge at 8 o'clock. Unfortunately, the Brisbane mechanic got called out to a breakdown, and he forgot all about 6004. And when he came back, 6004 had just blown itself to bits. But no damage to the vehicle, it just done its motor, that's all. So when they came in the next morning, the Chinese guy said, well, I'll get a new battery. Oh, okay. How long will that take? Oh, about 48 hours. So, the boss at the depot said, oh, I can get a battery from Melbourne much quicker than that. And when the battery from Melbourne arrived, it was too heavy. Transport wouldn't license the bus. So the Chinese mechanic said, I'll get another battery from China, which he did. But the battery came with a bus. So we got a bus in 48 hours. 6004 went back to China, got reworked, and we got a new 6004, which is slightly different in its looks, but just as reliable. It's got straight up. But as is usual with the council, we've always had demonstrators which often stay around for quite a long time, and then by the time you've made the decision to buy them, that model has gone off the market. And that's what's going to happen at the moment. We're toying up whether to buy electric buses. Everybody else in the world is buying electric. Denmark has virtually changed over completely to electric. I think there's only about 300 diesel buses left in Denmark these days. So we're toying up with getting electrics. But by the time we make the decision to get them, we'll probably be on to no fuel buses. Make sure you go and look at bus 722. That's the last Leyland Panther, British built. And Brisbane had the largest fleet of Leyland Panthers in the world. In Britain, I come from Manchester, where they were developed. And if you spoke to a Manchester mechanic about the Panther, you'd get an expletive-laden treatise about how bad the Panther was. But in Brisbane, they were magnificent. Just a bit heavy to drive, that was all.